That's cute. Oh, hey, we're live.
Are you sure?
That's a
It
great
says-
way to start.
It says so on my phone.
Yes,
We have the
those
greatest beginnings.
aliens.
Oh, that's heckin' cute.
Any live stream, just right there.
Oh, that's
I just want to let
adorable.
you guys know that this episode of Camille's Harem live stream is brought to you by Kirkland brand off-brand LaCroix. Listen to it whisper to you.
Oh. It's tingly. Mm-mm.
It's not actually brought to you by Kirkland brand off-brand LaCroix.
We're
But
not sponsored.
if Kirkland wants to, Kirkland Signature wants to sponsor us, we just made it very easy for them.
Yeah, wink.
Wink. Okay.
Good old Kirky.
And I'm assuming we're going to be playing Portal tonight because I have it pulled up and nobody has stopped me
I'm
yet. So.
I'm all
Oh
good
yeah, I
with
didn't.
that.
Sorry, I'm playing Animal Crossing right now, and I can't stream that to my. I could. It's too many steps though.
Today we're going to be. Sorry, hold on. Let me pull up the chat. I think somebody posted something.
I already love what's happening here in the chat. We've got Tevin here who's asking what are we doing, and then Scott and I are giving two conflicting answers. This is going to be fantastic.
Oh boy, it's going to be one of those live streams, isn't it?
Oh yes.
All
right. So let's see here. I wrote down tonight we're talking romances, unfinished stories, and other fancies and Valentine's shenanigans. And Scott at least says, yeah, also romance shenanigans. I'm not entirely sure. Talking about romance shenanigans. So at least we know we're talking about romance.
Sure, I know you guys were talking about that earlier today, but I've been at work most of the day.
Oh yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
Good job.
I would say don't worry about it. I'm a heathen teacher, and I sneak messages when I can.
Oh my, I'm telling.
I'm a little bit. I'm smart. Here's the thing. I'm smarter about it than students. I had a student today. I saw him for 5 minutes on his phone doing stuff, and I was like, how is that going to help you with such assignment? He's like, oh, I wasn't doing anything. I'm like, dude, I saw what you're doing. A picture, like whatever picture you're looking at, and then his friend's like, dude, it was just a picture. And I was just like, to say one more thing, and I'm sending you both to the office.
I love this, no craps given, Lars. It's the best.
Yeah, hard ass Lars.
Yeah, hard ass Lars.
I have no more patience.
He has no more hex to give.
His hex have completely run out.
His cup runneth over with hex.
I don't have my gaming keyboard. I just have this really crappy portable one. Should I try to play this with a keyboard, or should I grab my controller?
Struggle bus the entire way.
Struggle bus with
kicks
a crappy
and giggles.
with a crappy
Struggle.
keyboard. Okay,
I'm gonna die. Balls.
I'm in trouble.
In Animal Crossing?
There's gonna be lots of death happening off screen.
I got stung by wasps.
And on screen.
Oh,
What
no.
game? Was this the one
And
you were
on
doing?
screen too.
Oh jeez.
All right.
Okay. Well, I gotta clean up my workspace a little bit.
All right, what's our first topic? Let's get moving.
So, I say that I want to get this one out of the way, just because I feel like maybe this is more of a pet peeve of mine that just recently it's come bubbling up back again to the surface. So might as well get it out of the way right now. But unfinished stories. I was I was coming across some of the more independent original stories online, like comics, books, things like that. And there's a lot of really great ideas, even if they're not the best executed. I recently came across like furries absolute fantasy, which was this like anthropomorphic
Hello.
animals become roommates and everything, and like there and I was reading, I'm like, this is not very well written, but there's actually something there that's kind of interesting. I want to know what happens.
Hmm?
And the guy like stopped after like 4 chapters, and
Oh.
and
I
then
mean,
and then like posted something just all like, don't worry, I'll pick it up again. And like 15 years later, and I come find out, I was like, this is like old. I'm like 15 years later, he's all like,
Holy
I don't
crap.
understand why people are upset with me for not finishing this. I'm like, what?
I mean, that's the entirety of fanfiction.net right
I was
there.
gonna say I have nothing to criticize with this topic. It'd be very hypocritical of me.
Yes, yes, exactly. I
I'm
know
looking at the man in the mirror. Woo!
I know I have 2 fanfics on fanfiction.net right now that are unfinished. And I have gotten messages about them. They're like, "Oh, please continue the story." Yeah, I
Like,
don't know if
why?
I'm gonna pick it back
Who
up
are
again.
you
Who?
people?
What story? Yeah. I just feel
Oh,
I wrote a
personally
oh,
story.
attacked.
I mean,
oh
I
no.
I wrote something
d-
once.
d- is this what does this make me a heathen that I've actually like that I completed some of my own stories?
I
Yes.
mean, to be fair, I have completed stories.
I have
The first
completed,
draft.
yeah, first drafts, but I've never actually completed like an entire.
I've completed short stories before.
Hey, that
Mhm.
counts. Don't sell yourself short,
No.
story.
Uh, uh.
No, and honestly, it
Oh,
should be said that that whatever you do get written, that's good. Like that's important. Don't sell yourself short. But for me, if I don't finish a story, I get to live for years with those
Ah,
characters just glaring at me.
Oh, here comes the
that is
cake.
also
I ended up literally cursing myself for a long while there. It was only recently that I actually changed it. That I paid somebody to draw my main character for one of my stories, and then had it as my phone background for like a while. It's supposed to act as like a motivation to write the story more.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah,
Did it
that
work?
hasn't happened, but no. And then recently I changed it so it was this really cool fan art for Belle, just because I really love
Ooh.
that movie.
Well, that's
Uh-huh.
fun. Well,
Hmm.
someday. Maybe
Someday.
someday.
I've got serious
See,
plans for that story. I
Someday.
just haven't.
I don't
I
know,
need to sit
like
down and
what
write more.
right, like what
Oh.
is it that, one day you're like pumped about a story and then the next day you're like, nah. And then years go by and you're like, oh, shoot, I should
I mean,
finish
and there
that.
are some writers that that's how they work. It takes them years to put
Yeah.
the full story together, get it edited and everything. That's so the amount of time take to publish the novel. It's
I
not
mean,
really an excuse. You can take as long as you need to,
Yeah.
but finding that motivation to actually finish the story once you've started it
Yeah,
Mhm.
is
that's the
key.
tough part. I
yeah.
remember one time my parents were like, "So, how's your story going?" Which they never ask about, which I thought was weird in the first part, but I was
Oh.
like, they're like, "Are you still working on your book?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I'm working on my book. That is going to be a never-ending thing, and even if I was done with one,
I got
like
chopped.
I still have copious amounts of stories to choose from. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a never-ending process."
Right?
It's a
Mhm.
You're always
never-ending
coming up with
cycle.
new ideas.
Right.
Though it's kind of along those lines. Oh well, it's kind of along those lines of something Brandon Sanderson says, where ideas are cheap. It isn't until you actually sit down and get the story put together and write it
Yeah.
that
I
that
like that.
idea matters.
Yeah.
So you actually have to put effort into it to make it good.
Yeah. Anybody can come up with a story idea, but only
Yeah.
only the few, the brave, the marine, can actually finish it.
Yeah.
Couldn't be me, I
Uh,
guess.
and it's a labor of love, and that's the thing. Like, if you don't, I'll say this: if you don't finish if you don't finish a story that like was a great idea, it doesn't mean that the idea itself was bad.
Yeah.
I think that's something that like I have seen writers be all like, oh, this was a terrible idea. Why did I bother with it? Just completely give up on it, and just because it didn't work that one time. And that's something that I've heard from as well from from other accomplished authors, is that they're like, if something isn't working out for you right now, just file that idea away. Like, you
Yeah.
might find that it works out really well later on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Or you can like look through your ideas,
It's
like,
beautiful.
oh, I'm gonna combine this and this and this from like a bunch of different ideas,
Yeah,
and
I've done that.
it ends up like making it better.
Yeah, like sometimes, I mean, I've taken like fragments of separate story ideas that I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. And then I eventually, after 3+ years, I was like, wait a minute,
Wait.
what if I combined them? And then that actually made a full-fledged story. And sometimes you also have to kind of put stories on the back burner for whatever reason,
Hmm.
because that's just not the time that they need to be written. Like, I know that there are stories for myself where I'm like, I don't think I could do this story justice if I try to write it at this point in time.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And it
So,
Yeah.
just be like that.
Well, and that's how I was with my Guardian story, which was like the entire, like, in like, wow, what's the word? Inspiration for my, like, all of my other stories. Like, this was the
Mhm.
foundation that I built everything else off of. And I was like, yeah, I'm not ready to write this story. It's a great idea, but I'm not ready for it. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
I put it on the back burner. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Say, like I said, it's a personal pet peeve of mine when a story isn't finished. Usually it's because I'm the person on the other end who's reading it and just all like, I want more, even if it's an awful story. I've now invested time.
I'm looking at you, Patrick Rothfuss.
Oh, Patrick Rothfuss, why? Look at you, George R. R. Martin.
He's never gonna finish a series. Doesn't
He's
matter
ne
how
no,
many
he's
he
never
starts, he will never finish
gonna
one.
finish it.
He's not gonna finish it out
No.
of spite at this point.
Yeah.
I think that's what I think. He purposefully has now been spending time around Hollywood, getting Hollywood writing gigs. I think so that way he can justify not completing his book.
Cheeky, chubby bastard.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what we can say on unfinished stories.
so
Right
like kind
there.
of a connection to unfinished stories. Like, when do you know you should just give up on a story for like
Indefinitely?
indefinitely?
Oof.
I'll give an example. I know I've brought this up before, and I wish I had actually given this story a name, so that way I could just like recall it, but recall it that way. But my story where I was writing it on Facebook. I did installments on Facebook because I didn't know that things like Tumblr or whatnot existed at that time. Back in the
Probably
days
for the
before Tumblr
better.
was even like a yeah, I know, but like that was actually even back before Tumblr became a hellhole. But so as I was writing it, like I had this cool idea of a guy who had a cursed sword that had possessed him, and he was dealing with that. There was a princess who was trying to escape with her best friend from being put into this crazy arranged marriage, while this Amazon was sent on an assassination run, and all these things to become a woman within her culture. She had to go kill someone of specific rank, a certain note. And so like I had all of these different I had all these different ideas bouncing around. I was bringing them
Oh,
together. I was having fun doing what I was doing, and I just got to a point where I realized that when I had a carriage get blasted out of this tower and soar perfectly to like this nearby plateau, and no one died in the process. And I was like, I actually think that this is a good idea. Whereas chapters ago, I had like 50 people get murdered in this horrible, gruesome way. These things are not congruent. Why are these characters even together? None of this is making sense. Why is it that in one chapter I have realistic physics and in the other I completely chuck them out the window?
Because why not? I'm the
Because
writer.
why not? Yeah. At that point, it's like I don't even know what I'm doing with this anymore. And so like as a writer, everything felt discombobulated. I felt frustrated, and as someone who architect writes the plot but then discovers the characters as I write, um, I was no longer discovering anything from these characters. These characters had become bland caricatures of weird anime ideas.
Mm, that's rough.
And as a result, I'm like, there's nothing I can do with this. So there's
Yeah.
no reason in me continuing it because it's just a mess, and I no longer am having any kind of fun. And I put it off to the side, and later on I was like, what if I come back to it? I felt no desire to come back to it. And so I think that that's when you realize that you just got to drop a story. When it's no longer fun. Even after a
Mhm.
Yeah.
break, you can't get back into it, and it's just a mess. That's my experience anyway.
Yeah. So, what would you recommend for? How do I explain this? Basically, I had a story idea that I loved so much, in fact, that I actually finished the first draft, but ended up. Oh, I just squished myself. Ended up like there were scenes in it that I'm like, I'm not excited about this. Like, I'm not excited about writing this. Like, I'm just not having fun writing this particular scene. But it's a very crucial scene, like, in terms of, like, I just got discombobulated. For, like, the story.
Red Star's comment.
Yep.
What?
Yeah,
Did
He
Lars
said-
just figure out why people don't finish their fanfic?
exactly.
Yes, I
Because
did.
they no longer enjoy it.
We've come
Yeah.
full circle.
We've come full circle.
Oh, Ron, you're great.
Really cute.
But what would you do? So instead of an entire book where it's difficult to finish, it's just like a scene or two that like you have the rest of the story like done. You just need to touch up or make these scenes better, but you can't bring yourself to do it because you just don't enjoy. And either you don't enjoy the story anymore, or you don't enjoy what's happening in the
Kill
story.
kill that scene.
Kill that scene.
Kill that
probably your
scene.
best
I had to. So as I've been editing the Marauding Empire, and also the Dark Rebellion. There are scenes that I know I put them in there because because they had specific character significance. They're like these scenes were supposed to mean a lot, and in the end, I was just all like, I'm no longer loving this. I know exactly why I put this in here, but I'm no longer loving it, and I axed entire scenes. I wiped out entire
You
chapters.
gutted that story.
Yeah, you did. I remember that.
And it made it way better.
So what would you do instead?
I mean,
like, because there's vital information in those scenes. Do you just like approach the scene from a different point of view, or?
So you can either
Right,
approach the
Matt.
scene from a different point of view, or I just removed it. So like, and I mean, I don't mind sharing this right here because it's no longer a spoiler, but like originally I had this whole idea in mind of how Jessica, when realizing that her path to popularity had caused her to lose friendships that she really cared about, and that those friendships were things that were connected to her creativity, to her healthy imagination as a young as a preteen, and now as an older teenager that was all gone. I looked at it and I was like, you know what? I can get that same sentiment and everything across, and I can by having a slightly different conversation, and I'm going to axe all of the chapters and all of the scenes that had to do with her dealing with that.
Mm.
And that in part came from at least one person, one beta reader, and I think it was actually a second as well, who were just like, I am so excited for Dark Jessica. And that was never something I had in mind originally when I was writing
Oh,
the first draft. But I was like, no, that makes
yeah,
absolute sense. I've
Yeah.
yeah,
set it up. I want to do
Yeah.
it.
oh yeah. Do Antonio.
So yeah, but my second and third drafts have been radically different, and they become way more fun to write. Like Jessica becomes a way more dynamic character because she's not just oh, woe is me, I did horrible things as a preteen, which preteen as a preteen didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So so yeah, it was a good thing I got that. So I killed all of those, and it did make it easier to then go back and do that story again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think.
I mean, that would be my suggestion. If a chapter or scene just isn't working out for you, Nate, just wipe it out, just kill
Wipe
it.
it out.
Yeah. And there's
Eat
sometimes
it.
you need to figure out what you're missing. Either like what the story's missing, what your characters are missing, or like individually what you're missing to continue your story or your work. Like with my nonfiction book, I found out very quickly I had not done enough research. And so I had plenty to write like the first chapter, the introduction to the whole thing. But then once I got past that, I found that, oh, I need to know a whole lot more about this in order to make this like truly interesting and have like enough facts to like keep people's interest kind of idea. And so, or like sometimes you need to find something out about yourself. You need to find like a good sense of like maturity or something. Like sometimes you have to wait for that stuff to work out.
Ah. Oh. Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
Doop.
Do we want to move on to the new topic? I know we've only
Yeah.
got about half
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, because
So,
our original
um,
topic was romance, which is
Yes,
something I
romance.
am
Perfectly
very
written
So,
romance.
oh,
that
The
I very much
entire
enjoy.
romance
yeah.
section at Barnes and Noble.
No, not that kind of romance.
Oh, you don't want
yeah.
to talk about Rough and Ready?
No.
Hello.
I mean, I mean, if we're gonna talk about that kind of romance, I'm going to bring up the point I put into our group chat earlier today, where I'm like, if your romance scene sounds like it should be narrated by David Attenborough, like you've gone too far.
Time
You've
to
gone wrong. It's
stop.
just all like
Honestly, that
it's like
sounds hilarious.
as he unbuttoned her dress and took it down slowly, revealing her gorgeous shoulders. I don't even know.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
There's a TikTok that does something similar, but with like a Midwest accent, and it makes me laugh every time I've seen it.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm going to say is like when it comes to romance, specifically writing romantic scenes,
Hmm.
it's always going to be different. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard to say like that, hard to give like any truly concrete advice because every relationship is different.
Mm-hmm.
Every so that means that every romance is going to be different. But I think that there are some places where you can say like, yeah, that might be taking it there a little bit too far,
Yeah.
or
And
in some cases, you're not taking it far enough.
yeah, well, and I think in a bunch of cases you have to be able to show how the characters get along with each other, how they get intimate with each other in different ways. You can't expect to have use like the same verbiage and everything every time that the characters kiss.
Yeah.
it needs to be different every time, or else it's just going to be kind of like it's going to feel like you copy pasted that scene over and over and over again throughout your story.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I actually saw something like that recently in a fan fiction. I don't know why. Like, I honestly have no idea why I get these, but like YouTube keeps recommending to me fanfics of Izuku and Momo.
Okay,
Interesting
I don't know
take.
why.
that's not a ship
I
I
on
normally think about, but okay.
No.
Yeah, but like I keep getting like inundated with this stuff, and I'm like, I didn't click any of this.
He's too much
Where
of a
did this
bottom
come
for her.
from? Hmm?
I said he's too much of a bottom for her.
Fair point.
Yes. So, but like in any case, going to you back to your point, Scott. Like so I finally decided I would look at one of them, and it ended up being pretty engaging, pretty interesting. Like, it was well written, except for the romance. Like, it,
Oof.
it kept on coming back to like the same old, like, hand holding, blushing. They said the same things over and over and over again. And it wasn't until like 20 chapters later, when you actually got to any smutty scene, that anything changed. And so
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, like we just went from hand holding to
There was no natural
to
progression.
Yeah.
yeah, or like
Well, I feel like
they
if there
tried like
is
they
no
tried
natural
to add
progression,
progression,
it's
but it just
not.
didn't work.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you don't have any progression like put in like that, when you try to pull off like the really intimate stuff between the characters, it's just gonna flop. It's not gonna feel.
Yeah.
It's gonna be flat.
Well, and I think, and we could go back to the rules of shipping for this one. Why are these just? There's just two blue balls floating here in space.
So
That was
something was
not a
blue balls.
euphemism. Like, that's just.
Oh, because
Um,
you set them. I saw you set them earlier.
I know, but it's like, why are they still there? Anyway,
Oh,
that's besides the point.
Hmm.
Like, kissing is not the end game. It's, there's
Smoothie.
so much nuance to romance, like,
Mhm.
and so it's like doing, like, you have to have like, I don't know, and I think that a lot of this is just born from, anime, where it very much oftentimes it's like, oh, they don't kiss until the last episode, therefore the kiss is
Yeah, then
proof
it's
that they
done.
are, yeah, or whatever, and but it's like, no, that's
True
not,
girlfriend, true boyfriend.
yeah, that's not the eventual end goal, like. And I think Horimiya, if we're talking about anime, Horimiya is an excellent example of like this done well, where it's like you
Yeah.
actually have progression, you have the characters like learning to talk to each other, learning, to interact with each other. You know what I
And
mean?
like navigating a sexual
Relationship.
relationship.
Yeah. A sexual partnership. Like, that's what it is. It's, how do these, and chemistry
is way more
isn't,
realistic.
what is the are these characters polar opposites, therefore that they're perfect for each other? That's not what chemistry is. That
Yeah.
would be a
Well, that's
Oh,
disaster
I
of a
hate that. I hate that
relationship.
so much.
I can tell you from like personal experience, it is a disaster of a relationship. It is, and so it's like that's a terrible, terrible way to go about quote unquote chemistry, because that's not chemistry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, chemistry is literally like, how well do these characters talk to each other? Whoops, I went the wrong way. Like, how well do they interact? How do they problem solve? How do they do all these things? Like, if your characters aren't like getting into trouble, like facing problems, then what's the point of the relationship anyways? You know what I mean? Like, a good relationship is not there as just like yes men. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
Period.
there needs to be growth. There needs
Yeah.
to be some kind of conflict, and like that's one of the things that makes a relationship stronger is that you have those disagreements, you have those problems, things get worked out, and like that's
Hmm.
when and that's when you learn if whether or not the chemistry actually works. Like that's one of the things that makes the whole opposites attract amazing is that when you show opposites attracting and they work out their differences because they have lots of differences. But if they
Yeah.
don't work that out, then it just comes across as highly toxic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that you can't do, differences, like, that kind of a thing, like polar opposites, but you have to show them actually working as a couple, not just like, oh, we're opposites, therefore we're perfect for each other. I've seen that way too many times, like that sorry old excuse, and that's not. No, I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
A good an example that I enjoyed of of a good romance, and I've gone back and I've watched the anime again and again because it was one of those instances where I'm like, is it really that good? And like the second time around, no, it wasn't that good. But one of the romances was that good. That that makes sense. The anime Kokoro Connect, I
Oh,
really enjoyed it the first time I watched it,
yeah, that was a fun
Mm.
one.
and going back around a second time, I'm like it's not as great as I remember it. Like there's some parts that are just phenomenal, but then there's many that suddenly like fall flat again.
Yeah.
Just
Like the second time around, and I'm like, oh man, some of the magic is gone.
Yeah,
Uh,
and sometimes you
but
have to take
Tai
away that like
but
nostalgia you have for it. Like, I have to admit, like I had quite the nostalgia for Please Teacher for the
Oof.
longest time. It's like, oh, it's
oh,
such a
that was
cute
so
romance,
bad.
and then like I watched it again recently, and I'm like, what was
Ah,
I
that
thinking?
was
You
that was
weren't.
so bad.
And then I made Lars watch it and
Oh,
suffer with me.
I
I'll
suffered.
pass
I
on that one.
suffered. But coming back to it, like with Kokoro Connect, I really enjoyed the relationship
Oh.
between Inaban and Taichi
Hmm.
because they are very like the thing is this is that
Mm.
they actually have very compatible personalities, but they show them in very opposite ways. Like their mentality is very opposite, but they complement each other very well. And basically, the entire season is them working that out.
Hmm.
Like
that's
that's like kind of like the
good.
big discovery in the last episode is like actually we are a really great couple. It just took us forever to figure that out. And so you
Mm.
get to see the
What's going on
miscommunications, the
here?
fights, and everything else that they have to go through as
Yeah.
friends, first as friends,
Hmm.
and then to discover we actually do have feelings for each other.
I don't understand what's happening.
That. Even though I have no idea what this anime is. Boop 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 boop
Yeah,
boop.
say, hey, Camille, if there was a way to just like get you like the highlights of just that relationship, I'd say like here,
Highlight
just
reel.
watch this. Just
Yeah.
watch the
Yeah.
highlight reel because the highlight reel is absolutely worth it. You honestly don't need the rest of the show to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with
Noted.
that.
Um,
Shoot.
Give me all the chairs.
Give it.
give
Break
it.
the break the glass. Break the glass. Damn.
One thing that I want to also still like bring up in terms of like romances.
They
This is
Oh, we
something
made it to the
that
final boss.
this is something that having talked like once again like with some novice writers having honest conversations about like the couples that they want to get together and like this is where like I've really come to realize shipping your characters is not a good thing to do. You've got to craft, you got to sculpt relationships.
Hmm.
Shipping just doesn't it just doesn't work. Where I've had conversations where I'm like, okay, like I can see the potential in this couple that you're putting together, but I don't understand why these two characters would initially interact with each
Hmm.
other because like they've created like in many cases they've created situations that just don't call for them to interact. Like especially like if it's an angsty high school romance, like you've got like the two girls are going to fall in love. One of them is from a clique that actually hates the other clique, so I can kind of see like the whole Romeo and Juliet kind of thing going on right there. But they establish so firmly just the hatred between these characters as like so what brings them together? Like with Romeo and
Right.
Juliet, it was a ball, and
Mm-hmm.
what brings these two together? It brings these two together. They saw each other passing down the hallway, and they knew. Don't worry,
No,
I'll
they
show later
didn't.
on how it makes sense. And I'm like, that doesn't work. That does
Yeah.
not work.
No, that's a really good point,
and
though.
I'm totally behind you doing this, but you've got to figure out a way to like get them in his get them in a situation, whether it be two girls, two
Mm.
guys, or a guy and a girl, or two machines. Uh,
Robot love.
robot love. Create like show to me how or why you're able then to start up that kind of a relationship. For Romeo and Juliet,
Right.
it's at a ball. Maybe for these two characters, maybe they got like in a fight. They ended up like in detention or an in school suspension, so they're forced to spend an entire day with each other, just
Oh
glowering
my
at
god.
each other. And within that period of like 6.5 hours of glowering, they suddenly realize, why am I doing this? This is stupid. And then
Oh my
you can
gosh.
start that conversation that then leads to the romance.
Yeah, there has to be like some inertia, romance inertia there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Whoops. I did not mean to take that. Okay. Beef.
Yeah. So, I mean that's something I've seen right there. The one thing I have been seeing more, and I've been seeing this from some of the people who are on our Discord with some of the stories that they've been sharing. I actually do like hopping into a story where the relationship is already either defined or somewhat defined.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think that that's
Yeah.
cool because you can then spend more time on developing an already established relationship, which is a lot of fun, rather than having to spend so much time justifying the fact that these characters are together.
Right. It's a really good
Yeah.
point, Diane.
Yeah. It really is though.
Oh, son of a
It's
bitch.
like what we've been saying, like oftentimes the what happens after the first kiss is more interesting
Mhm.
than what happens up to it, you know? Like yeah, it can be fun to have, you know, that lead up, but don't have that be the end goal because it's been done so many times, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best way to do it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Wise words.
Amen. Wise
Amen,
words.
brother. If
The one thing with say, I mean this has come out of the blue, but this just came to me as thinking because I suddenly thought about some of the thumbnails that I made for this live stream, and one of them is from The Notebook.
Yes.
It
oh
uses
yeah.
a scene from The Notebook, and it's actually got me thinking, what romances have you seen or read at like when you take a step back, you realize this isn't really
No.
great, but you're like, I think that there's a way to fix it. There's a way to actually make this work out without it being cringy or forced.
Um.
Like, have you ever come across a
Oh
romance
gosh.
like that,
Hmm.
or is that just like too rare of a beast?
Mhm.
No, I wouldn't say
I
it's
feel like
too rare, but I can't think of any.
yeah. I feel like if I think they're cringy, then I just think they're cringy
Yeah.
and then I don't want anything
there's
to do
no
with it.
I mean, I definitely think I've
no
come
going
across
back.
romances that were like, this could have been interesting if, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
honestly can't think of any off the top of my head.
Hmm.
Oh, what's
Ew.
happening here?
I'm trying to think
I
if
mean,
there's
as
anything
I
recently. I
because
got
like
nothing.
one of the things I've been looking at. So I just released a video about Ichiruki, the relationship between Ichigo and Rukia, which never came to fruition.
Oh, I'm
in
an angel now.
in the manga, and it's like because Ichigo ends up with another character, and one of my big criticisms to that is just that there was really nothing ever given. It was incredibly forced there at the end,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
having binged my way through all of Bleach, it's very hard to convince me otherwise that Kubo actually did the proper setup for that relationship to work. It's one of the reasons
Mhm.
why I think everyone was caught off guard. And I'll be honest, I think it's one of the reasons why the anime has taken so long to get picked up again. It's not because Bleach isn't popular, but because the animators seriously thought that Ichigo and Rukia were endgame. And you
Oof.
find out that's not the case. That they had a huge following in Japan. And so it's like, oh boy, how are you going to make this work if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do that, Kubo? If you're going to have us animate that, what can we actually fix in the final season so that way this isn't just a repeat of the manga's end, because that was a brutal bad ending. And so like I think about it, like how could you have done it better? Honestly, go back and just, sorry Kubo, you got to tone down all of the Ichiruki scenes. Either remove them, axe them, or add in stuff that shows that this other girl, Orihime, is the one who is
Ugh.
going to win
And
Ichigo's
she was
heart.
so annoying too.
Oh yeah, she was so annoying.
Especially the English. Ugh. I could not stand her voice in English. No offense to the voice actress, but
All
ugh.
the offense.
Fine voice. She's a fine voice actress,
Mhm.
but it comes down to how Orihime is written.
Yeah.
She is because she's a ditz.
Mm.
She's a ditz who misreads so many scenarios, so many situations,
Yeah.
and like other characters call her out on it, and she never grows from that.
Yeah.
And so like that's ah and the incessant Kurosaki-kun. Yeah, no, that would actually take a whole lot of work to fix.
Yeah.
Which is again why I think that the animated why the Studio Perot was like, if we're gonna do this, we've got to fix things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
I
that's
don't know. My own question is also kind of stumping me a little bit, because there's wait. I'm touching fire here with this one. Finn and
oh.
Flame Princess.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, we don't have enough time in this live stream to get into that. But
You just triggered me.
Okay. I said I know it's touching fire with that one right there.
All
it
puns
was
intended.
it was such a it had so much potential to be
And
Anyway,
for what?
and for what?
They did this
It
for what?
it was a problem of an absolutely abrupt ending. If you're going to end a relationship, which I'm fine with building up a really amazing relationship only for it to not work out in the end. It makes sense.
Yeah.
One episode to crash what is arguably the most popular ship of Adventure Time, and that's even mixing in Marceline and Princess Bubblegum in the mix,
Oh.
ending it in one episode.
Yeah,
That
like
was bad.
it didn't even like pay its respects to end the relationship
Yeah.
well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hello, Bob.
Ah. And I think maybe that's like some good writing advice right there. Of just like,
Son of a
if you've
bitch.
built up if you've built up a relationship, but you've decided that you want that relationship to end, whether it be romance or like friends or allies, while it is true that it happens all the time that someone says or does something that another person is just like, that's unforgivable, you also know, because in real life, that it's usually a very long, messy, drawn out process.
Yeah.
So if you want it to end abruptly, show that. Or if you want to have it just be a gradual letdown, show that.
Yeah.
Don't just end it so that way you can move on to the next thing.
That's kind of how I feel like they took it, or how they treated it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I feel like this is probably a pretty good place to kind of wrap it up because,
On that depressing note.
yeah.
I'm that depressing.
Depressing
Well,
note.
actually, here's something that we've talked about as a group, and I want to throw it on out there for anyone who's watching this right now or is going to watch this later. But like we've talked about, for the week of Valentine's Day, posting some of our own like romance scenes or like romantic build up, whatever that we've been doing on our own stories, and just being like, here's a variety of different relationships and everything like that, and just like let people like have a chance to see this is how other people do it. I think that that's something that could be like really good because sometimes we get stuck in our own heads, and I know that this right here, this was a huge problem for me with romance, was that I had my own thinking as far as romance goes, and planting Lars's idea of romance onto other characters who are definitely not me just doesn't work. And so seeing what other people have done, having conversations with other people about how they approach this tricky subject, I think that's really valuable and really helpful in being able to like spread your wings and figure out what works in your own stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So I guess we'll probably post that
reach out to it. Reach out to us.
Yeah.
I need to
And
post something. Whoops.
yeah, we'll post something in the Discord.
Blink.
Be good.
Yeah. Maybe we could start that tomorrow and go all weekend until Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Shit, are you shitting my dick? Yeah.
Oh, ooh, it's that bad, huh?
Sometimes this game just does things that fill me with a righteous fury.
With anger.
Yeah. Nothing gets me more riled than some Animal Crossing. I don't want to
Who knew
delete
that such a
something.
peaceful game could be so horrifying?
Who
Ron
knew
Star, we love you too. Thank you for showing up and chatting here with us.
Ron Star's awesome.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
We love
I
Ron.
don't know.
Ron,
I guess if we're
I do
if we're
wanna-
through right there, then
Oh, I was just gonna say I do want Ron Star to join us one of these times on chat because he has a wonderful, wonderful podcasting voice, and he has a lot of good stuff to add to the discussion. So, Ron, if you're feeling up to it, hey,
Hey, you know where to find us.
and Venus, thank you for joining us as well. It was
Yeah.
great having you there in the chat.
yes, thanks for joining us.
I feel so blind because I don't have the chat up, but thank you. Oh, sir.
Okie dokie. Well, any last parting words for the rest of you peons?
Oh. No.
I'm all good. I've actually thinking about shipping and Adventure Time. I now need to get back to doing my Finn and Huntress Wizard video.
Oh.
Ooh.
If
I bet
I
there's
will
some
leave with
good
this,
fanfic out there.
I'll leave with this. If there's anybody looking for good romance advice, go check out our episode of the podcast, which you can find on all the major podcasting sites, titled "The 10 Rules of Shipping." Is that what it is? Rules of shipping. 10
Yeah.
rules of shipping.
Something like that.
We have a small playlist on the channel here, which has like 4 of the rules. I think I need to sit down and like actually just post the rest of them, which I haven't for a while. But you know, at least you get a few. But there's 10
It'd be
rules.
like that.
The 10 commandments of shipping.
Yeah.
That's some great stuff.
Yeah.
There is some really good advice in there. So, yeah,
And that'll do it.
I'm gonna turn this off now. So that was great.
All right.
Goodbye.
Oh.
If I can
Bye,
find the
jelly
right
people.
program, jeepers. Sheesh. Okay.
Here's Mister.
Parting
And
is
we're
such sweet
ending.
sorrows.
Oh wait, but if we wait 3 more seconds, we'll end at exactly 50. And boop.
Oh.
End.
Oh,
At
that's